your students' age range?
My youngest student's 4. My oldest student's 74.
Wow. Come on. That is so
so
cool.
the flipping of, I mean, I'm constantly just putting on and off masks because it's like you're teaching, you know, a 6-year-old boy piano, and then you teach like a 14-year-old girl voice, you know, and then like a 13-year-old boy saxophone is not the way I would react to or interact with like a 16-year-old girl on guitar. You know, so it's just you're constantly just flipping and, you know, sort of like the same. I mean, the way you interact with one group of friends might not necessarily, you're the same person, but there's certain, you know, not presentation, that sort of has a weird connotation to it, but
different people bring different things out of you.
Yeah, like different sides of you, you know. I think, so it's just I'm constantly flipping, you know, and that gets mentally exhausting, I will say. By the end of, you know, because some days I teach as early as noon and I teach till as late as 11:30.
Oh, wow.
Which I need to stop because it's driving me nuts. But post-pandemic parenting, man, is nuts. I got like a third of my kids are homeschooled or like on virtual school, and the parents are just like, you know, they'll hit me up for lessons, and I'm like, I am literally booked until 10 o'clock. And they're like, oh, we can do 10 o'clock. I'm like, what? And they're like, oh, yeah, my kid's up till 4 on Minecraft anyway. Like, and I'm not sleeping. I'm work from home. So, yeah, sure, let's do a 10 o'clock lesson.
Boundaries. Got to set those boundaries.
There it is.
Well, it's hard. It's hard because I get some that I meet them, and I'm like, okay, I don't have time for you, but I'd like to do an interview and meet everybody before they join the school so I can pair them up with like the proper instructor. And then I'll meet them, and I'm like, and they're like, we really want to take lessons with you, you know, like there's not another you. And so I'm like,
my heart.
Yeah.
Gotcha. It's hard because it's hard to separate the, you know, because I want to, but it's just, I got to learn the boundaries thing.
You got to protect yourself too, your energy and your body and your health.
Yeah.
I mean, that's very important. So you can continue to be an influence and touch more people.
Yeah. That's something I struggle with for sure.
Yeah.
I definitely like.
That's good. Let's capture that. You know, something to think about. Though.
Sure. And mental health. Mental health.
It's like
is
I love you.
important.
You know, because our hearts can get us in trouble sometimes.
Oh
you know?
yeah.
That's happened to me many times. You know, like I just run myself ragged.
Yeah.
You know, trying to help everybody, and it's like, man, you know. To protect myself.
Like, let's help David.
Yeah. I'm shutting down.
To say no to.
But yeah, man, it's just I'm just really glad that we did this too, man. I'm glad that you've come on because, man, you're just such a phenomenal human being, you know. And it's just like, yeah, man, honestly, like we've only like scratched the surface with some of the things that you've told us so far. And I mean, it's like, man, like, wow. You know, so much more. But like you were talking about some of the stages that you've played on, like what has been like your favorite stage that you've played on? Like what are you know, what was it about that stage too that made it your favorite?
Well, I will say just a couple weeks ago, I got to sit in with Pigeons playing ping pong at Janice Live, and I think it was a sold out show. It was like 2,000 some people there, or close to it, and that was one of the cooler. I mean, I've played with them a few times since like they used to play Dunedin Brewery, and then I sat in with them at the Great Outdoors Jam, and they ended up like releasing it as like their only live album on Spotify. It's pretty cool. I sat in on the song Poseidon, and
I love that song.
Yeah, it's a good one. Yes. I had my students cover it recently too. I'm like real excited. We're gonna drop that video later this year. I mean, playing with them on the Jam Cruise main stage was really cool. They let me sit in with them there. They're just so gracious and such good people that I like to. I mean, the feeling I get when I make music with them, knowing that every single one of them is like an amazing person, just. It's hard to top that because I mean that night they not only did they have me like come up and sit in with them, like, and I had some of my students who had actually covered the song, like they were in the crowd, and I didn't even know until that day that I was gonna even sit in with them. They're just like, hey, bring your sax. I'm like, okay. And but afterwards they, you know, you got to understand too, they're on the road, they're, you know, they have a very strict schedule. They're a very hardworking band. They actually have like a whole like rehearsal set up upstairs. They're very like, even when I got there, they're on their computers like working. Like they're very, you know, focused and driven. And they interrupted their routine to take my students backstage to like hang out with them. And I could tell, I knew that they were like they had stuff they were doing, and you know, I was trying to not be there for too long, and they were just so gracious and welcoming. Like they brought them back stage and you know, signed their posters and took pictures with them. Like all 4 members equally. It wasn't like one of them is cool and then the other one was like whatever. All 4 of them, like, and even the last 2, the rhythm section, the drummer and the bass player were breaking down on stage. And the stage hands are like kind of yelling at us like, get out of here, you know, like we got to get this broken down. We're in a rush, blah blah blah.
Yeah.
And and Ben, the bass player's like, no, hold on. And he like stopped and he just like came down and like talked to my bass student, Alley Cat, and was very gracious. And same thing with Gator, the drummer. He just was like, hang on, let me pack up this one thing. Don't go anywhere. And he made it a point to like come out and like interrupt their very, you know, tight routine to like give these kids that experience that they'll never forget.
That's really cool.
You know, so it's, anyway, so yeah, as far as, I feel like I'm trying to. You asked about my performance. I
actually love. I love where you went with that.
Yeah.
Like that's incredible because it went back to relationship. You know, because I asked like a stage, like, you know, a question like that, like, you know, but I love how you brought it back to relationship because I believe that's what life's all about.
Yeah.
And you have a great relationship with them because they are a mirror image of you, I believe.
Yeah, I mean, really, especially with the performance, like I think of it as like a ball of energy that we're like passing back and forth, you know? And so I knew a lot of my friends in the crowd, and so it's like they're stoked that I'm up there, and I'm stoked that I'm up there, and they're stoked that they're here, and I'm here, and we're here, and my students are here, and you know, and so as you're playing, there's just this it is a relationship, like kind of with the crowd. And so that energy is what I remember about the performance. Like, I don't know the notes I played. I think I remember the song. I probably remember the horn lick, whatever. But I remember the feeling that I got when I was doing it and the conversation we were having, you know.
There it is right there. It's the feeling. And I think that's what it is with us as human beings in every relationship. Like, you might not remember what someone said, but you always remember how they made you feel. And I think that's why people go to these live music shows because, like, it's about getting that feeling, man. It's like, man, that band made me feel something that you know I've never felt before.
Right, and the energy in the place, because like it's different if you just listen to a song on your phone.
Oh yeah,
versus
live music
being
is just
there
unbelievable.
live in the present, you know.
And I will say I've played on some like big stages with some big acts that I didn't feel that great about, you know. It's like not gonna name names, but
of course,
you know, it's I just didn't feel right, you know. It's like there's some weird, I don't know, maybe there's some like interpersonal relationships in the band that I'm picking up on or whatever it is, or the crowd's I don't know, but I've definitely played some like that I guess for like a press release would be that I should probably answer like, oh, that's the one, you know, because it's like a bigger show or whatever. But
not
it's all about the
But that's what I love about you too, and that's just more confirmation is like you're focused on the heart, you know, and that is just so. And obviously that's why you do what you do with your students. You know, I used to coach high school football, and like I coach little league as well. But that's what it is. That's what keeps you coming back is those little hearts, you know. And it's like, and if you think about it, you know, that's what God does. He focuses on the heart. So like you got a lot of that inside of you, even though you played Jesus Christ. You actually that was another thing I wanted to ask you too. So it says the 7 last words of Jesus Christ. Do you know those? I don't know them. Like I'm curious, what they were.
I've heard the message so many times, but I can't like.
So the pieces
like,
in
mother
Latin.
love your son and like I can't think.
It's
of
okay. I just was curious. I was like, I'm like, but
fun.
either way, like that stuck out to me. But
yeah, I think he told Mary that this was now her son, John. She, you know, because he was dying. So I think his last words was like, you know, Mary, this is your son, to like pass that on to him. And that
we have to do some research on that. I love it.
Oh, I can't remember.
It's okay. Yeah, no worries. Yeah. But speaking of another thing that's going on right now is Halloween.
Oh yeah.
Did y'all weren't in that, or did you go up there at all?
Year, no.
Okay. You played at Halloween though, right?
Yeah. Displace has played a couple times. Yeah. And then I played last year with Joe Marcinek band. That was really cool.
That's another cool guy.
Yeah, he's very cool.
Joe Marcinek.
Yeah.
He brings a lot of musicians together.
Yeah. That's a dude that just plays. He's the most generous, gracious dude when you're on stage with him. He's
that.
like
I feel that.
At his shows, he puts other people in the front and center. He just kind of chills on the side. And then, and then he actually probably takes the least number of solos. Like he's always giving them to everyone else,
That's awesome. Okay.
It's like, yeah.
And he's
really
so
cool.
talented. Like he's amazing.
Yeah. He's a beast.
But that's a sign of a true leader.
Oh, he is.
That you're like,
He
you
is.
want others to shine and push them to the forefront, and you're not. It's like you're like, it's not all about me. It's not my show. It's I want these other people to shine.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Yeah.
I'm just thankful also for a lot of these venues around here that support live music, like Dunedin Brewery.
Yeah, we went there a couple weeks.
Yeah, we went up there to see Diddy.
Yeah.
Yeah, because
Oh,
we're
nice.
gonna bring Diddy on the show in a couple months when it lines
Cool.
up with
Yeah,
him.
we got to bring him on.
Yeah, he's awesome.
Well, yeah, we're in Clearwater too, and
Yeah.
that's like his stomping grounds.
Yeah.
So yeah, we got to get him out here. But yeah, he's pretty much like running downtown Dunedin.
Yeah.
He's got his all his little different things going on down there. And I'm not gonna say little, discredit him at all because he's doing big things. But I just as a writer and a poet and I admire his work.
Yeah.
I admire his and I admire his drive, because he's been doing it for a long time.
Yeah.
I think almost like a decade he's been doing these these events and putting them together and
think
doing the
you're right.
freestyle nights and all that stuff.
It's been at least, I've been in Clearwater, Dunedin for about 8-9 years now, and he's been doing it the entire time I've been here. So it's at least that long, and
Yeah.
probably longer before that, right? So
And honestly, I think he really found his groove too. I had saw a post where he stepped in with Golden Era. And man, he was killing it. Like it was kind of like rock rap.
Yeah.
What is that group? It's
Rage Against the Machine.
yeah, Rage Against the Machine.
Yeah, I was there that night at
Oh,
Dunbury. It was awesome.
Man, that was phenomenal.
Yeah.
Like I was like, damn, I wish I would have been there. Like I seen it from the video. I was like, that looked impressive.
yeah.
Yeah.
And that was really him. Like I was like, that fits him very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm like, man, he should step into that, like all in, like go all in,
Totally. Yeah.
like with that, because that would be, I mean, and you could just tell his passion. Like he's good at that.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's really good. I mean, he's good at everything, but I'm just saying, like, that's it, right?
Yeah. Well, and I think they've done a Rage Against the Machine tribute act too. Actually, I think they just did it at the Floridian last month with like Justino and Vinny and them. So yeah, he played the part of Zach De La Roca. He's pretty good.
That's awesome.
Vinny, that's another good artist, bass player.
Yeah. Yeah.
Bass players are always cool.
Oh yeah.
They're always
Yeah. I don't
so
think
cool.
I've known a.
I've never met like
No
a
jerk bass player.
bass
Yeah.
player,
Yeah. It's true. Yeah. My bass player's pretty dope, man.
Yeah.
What
he's
is his
actually,
name?
Daryl.
Daryl,
D
okay.
Truth the Professional is his name.
True.
You know.
Okay.
So
All
him,
right.
actually, so him and my drummer Evan Tebow are actually the rhythm section for Golden Era. So that's why I was there that night. I was like, oh man, half my band's here.
Interesting.
Like
I didn't know that.
yeah, it's pretty sweet.
Yeah, those guys are pretty awesome, man.
Yeah,
Wow.
it's kind of cool because they came together like just this year, and legend has it that the first time they met, they were giving each other daps, and as their hands collided, there was this shock wave that rippled out, and actually like all of the power like throughout the greater Tampa Bay area just went out for a second. It just flickered.
That's
If
awesome.
you felt that, that's what that was.
Nice,
And that was
nice.
when this rhythm section was sort of forged.
Yes.
So
Yeah, they
I
have.
love that.
Yeah, they are the cleanest, tightest rhythm. Like, I mean, they are very good. Like, I don't know. I'm so blessed to have them in Displace because they're
Very cool.
good.
Yeah. Oh, you could feel like when I was watching Golden Era and they added them, I was just like, oh my goodness.
Yeah,
Like, yeah. It really
yeah.
just brings everything together.
Yeah. I mean, they're good.
Yeah, very powerful. I also like Golden Era's guitar player. I forget his name.
Oh,
He is
Sam,
kinda
yeah.
Sam. He has an accent. So that's actually how I was at Halloween couple years ago, maybe 2-3, I don't know. But Sam and Nook were going around the campsites, and they came to ours and like on a cart. And and I was hanging out with my dad and one of my buddies, Charles. I think you might know him. He used to go to a lot of shows. Charles Griffith.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So we were all hanging out, and they came up, and Nook was like, "Hey man, you mind if we play a couple songs for you?" And I'm like, "No, that'd be awesome." So Sam took a knee. He had his guitar, and he just started wailing. And then Nook was rapping over it, and they played like 3 songs. And I was like, "Man, that was really dope." I was like, "Thank you, man." Like, and I'll never forget that. But that's memorable. And I think they were going around doing that at each campsite.
Yeah.
So that it's like those kind of things like people do not forget. And it really was a great moment for me because and I always tell Nook this is because my father was there. Like that was a special moment to me. You know, for him to do that, you know, and have that moment with my father. So like that's something I'll never forget. And that's why like when he first started his band, I was going to like all their shows when when nobody was showing up, you know. Yeah. I was like, man, I just wanted to be supportive.
Yeah,
because I was
feeling,
I was like, because the way they made me feel, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I love the live music scene. And I've kind of gotten away from it the last couple years with a couple things that happened to me, pushed me in a different direction, and a couple injuries, and I went on like a spiritual mission, you know. But it's something I'll never forget is the musicians, and I think now we're kind of like we're like circling back around, like we're coming together, and now we're like bringing it together, and like this is a great platform. So I look forward to like opening up and speaking to more musicians around the area, because we have so much talent in Tampa Bay, and you guys have been doing I know and you guys have been doing this for years, and like, you know, some of we got some hidden gems around here, and some hidden festivals that are just incredible. Like one of them is Orange Blossom Jamboree at Saratoga Youth Ranch. I know you've played there. Also at Maddox Ranch, there was the Home Team Fest, which I don't think they're doing it. They haven't done it.
Not officially, not in the capacity they were. So.
I believe they're going to bring it back though eventually. That would be incredible.
They have to.
Yeah. But yeah, we got these like festivals, like that's just a couple of them. I'm pretty sure there's more if I can't think of them right now, but those ones like are like signature festivals that we have. I want to bring her to one. She's never been to one.
Oh, you got to come to OBJ in May.
Yes. Yo, that's what I told her we're going to go to. Yo, and Chris, I'm so excited because this is going to be the first festival that I have. I always like saw the big dogs, you know, with their campers. And I was like, and I always was the tent camper.
Yeah.
And I was like, man, one day that's going to be me. Well, I have a camper now. And it's a dope camper.
Oh, that's
and
awesome.
I'm like, yo, I'm going to get to be one of those camper dudes.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see what that's like. I want to experience that. I hope Chris, man, I hope you can come, bro. Like that would be incredible, man. Like just to come out there and see how that works, man.
Sounds like a good time.
Yeah. And we'll have the camper.
There we go.
I also want to bring that up to the Live Oak. You know, I really haven't even used this camper. I bought it like months ago. It just hasn't lined up. I got it parked, and you know, I'm going to use it eventually. But yeah, right now they got the Halloween going on, which is one of the biggest music festivals, and I think it's probably the biggest
in the Southeast,
in the state of Florida, right?
Yeah, easily.
I mean, and I love the diversity of bands that you get at Halloween. Have you heard about that festival?
I have not.
Yo,
So yeah,
bro,
I might have to check it out.
It's
How long of a festival is it?
Man, it could last like a week if you want it.
Really?
Yeah, there's definitely people that are up there for.
It's 4 days though.
Change.
Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday that you actually have people on stages.
Okay.
But like people get there early and start hanging out like, you know, like Monday, the Monday before.
Yeah.
Then they'll leave like the following weekend. Some people, I don't know, they might live out there all year. I'm not sure.
It looks like it, right?
Live in their
But it's on the Swanee River, man, and it's like it's so cool, man.
Yeah,
It's such just an epic venue.
Okay.
You know, I think it's called the Spirit of Swanee.
Yeah. Yep.
I might have 1 or 2 days in me. I don't know about 4.
Yeah.
It's intense.
Take it slow. Take it slow. You
Sounds
know,
like it's a modern day hippie thing.
It definitely is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
it is.
Yeah.
And you get such just so many different like types of music, genres of music. It's like, man, you can really get musically fed that weekend.
Yeah. If you're like, you know, musically ADD, that'll definitely scratch that itch. I mean, it's like EDM, like funk fusion, hip hop, rock, like what, you know, it's all over the place.
Yes.
It's beautiful.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Yes.
What about like what inspires you to write? Like, because you write lyrics as well.
Oh, how much time we got?
Oh, we got time. We got plenty of time, man.
lot.
As much time as you want, bro. Like,
I don't know. I'm gonna try to not ramble too much, but
No,
I don't know.
please do,
Life,
bro.
just life. You know, it's it depends, I guess, what I'm writing at, or when the need to write kind of arises, and what purpose it needs to serve, and how I'm dealing with certain things or whatever. So the latest writing process was kind of centered around a series of experiences that I've sort of reflected back on that have been significant challenges in my life. And it's not any one like particular event, to be clear. It's not like a specific thing or instance or person or like whatever. It's just sort of a collection of things that were factors in me going to a place that led me to self-destruct or whatever, and sort of coming to terms with a more appropriate way to handle it, and sort of just recounting that experience for personal reasons, and also because the teacher in me wants to like share that with hopes that someone else could relate to it and be like, oh yeah, I feel that, yeah, like my friend just died too and I'm like torn up about it, or whatever it is. And so so actually the entire Displace discography is sort of this giant 4-album story. We call it a concept. So if you're familiar with the concept of a concept album, it's basically like Star Wars or whatever, where like there's recurring themes that sort of present themselves, like the Darth Vader theme or Luke's theme or whatever. And then even if the character's not necessarily on screen or the full theme isn't being played, there are elements of that theme that are sort of like remixed or whatever you want to call it, or it's the key signature or whatever, and it's hinted at and sort of recurring throughout the overall work that ties it all together. Wow. And so the first album is actually, it's called Eureka, and it is inspired by the light bulb moment sort of realization that I had actually in the kitchen with my first band. Like we played the first song that we'd ever written, that I had actually written the hook with my best friend Josh on an acoustic guitar, and we took it to the band. It became Needles. It was the first song that we wrote as a band, and I was playing it in my manager's kitchen, with the guys where we were rehearsing, and I was like, oh my god, like this is it, this is. And at the time I was like, I wrote this musical, and I was like torn between like, do I go to New York and try to like make that happen, or do I like keep teaching or do this band thing? I didn't know what to do. And then like this kind of feeling happened, and I was like, oh, I think this is what I'm supposed to do. I got to stay here and teach and whatever. And but anyway, so the I guess I'm gonna butcher the history and I'm also gonna take creative liberties with it because history is just subjective anyway, I guess. But but allegedly, Archimedes was a mathematician, and I guess the king or whatever at the time had this crown, and he's like, hey man, I think these jewelers are ripping me off. I need you to tell me if this is like pure gold or not. And you got 3 days to figure it out or I'm gonna kill you. And he's like, oh man, that's just how they did stuff back then. So I guess he's like, oh, I can't melt the thing down because it'd ruin it. I don't know what to do. And so like day 1, nothing. Day 2, nothing. Day 3, the sun is setting, and he's like literally looking at the sun setting on his life, and he's trying to like get his head straight and like try to figure it out to find the answer to this like impossible question. And so he like runs a bath to kind of like get his head where it needs to be, and he sits down, and as he sinks down into the tub, he notices the water level rising, and he concludes that the amount of water that is displaced by his sinking into it must equal his mass. Since he knows the mass of gold, he can figure out whether the crown is like pure gold or not. And so he's so excited by this profound realization, this light bulb moment, that he just screams like Eureka, and he runs naked through the streets saying like, Eureka, I've found it. And so the whole Eureka album is in one of the very first songs, you hear the Needles theme teased in a different key, in a different mode, and it kind of recurs throughout. And basically, like the answer is kind of floating around in your head, and then it ends with the last song, Needles, part 1 and 2, with this sort of like aha, like this realization moment thing.
Wow,
so that is brilliant. That is brilliant.
Great story.
And we just heard Needles a couple days ago.
Yeah.
Oh, right.
You gotta hear.
No, you know what's funny? Yeah, I gotta listen to that. You know what's funny?
Play it now.
The very first science fair project that I ever did, and my mom will testify to this, was water displacement and how it worked.
Wow.
This is just incredible.
It's so crazy.
I love this right now. Yeah, I mean, this is just, like I said, who knows what else?
It's insane.
And I've been personally wanting Chris to step out and get back into his music.
Honestly. Yeah, he's
you've mentioned that. I do need to focus more on my artistic side of things. I mean, I think doing this podcast definitely helps that. But I've been so focused on my career and the engineering and stuff. I do need to do more of the art stuff.
We're planting the seed.
Yeah.
Orange to the clockwork. You know, yeah.
Absolutely, bro.
Connect
I love that.
you.
I love that. That's gonna go in. Like I'm working on what I want to do is have like a little quote book, and like man, that's one of the quotes right there. I would love to throw in there.
Yeah, totally.
You know what I'm saying? And then put your name beside it. Like everybody that we have on have this quote book that we take like these quotes that you guys have and put it together.
Yeah.
You know, because like we're all like superstars. You know, I mean, you're the biggest superstar we've had on so far, but you know what I'm saying? I know he's like, stop. But no, but that's another thing that I love too is, you know, there's a verse and you know it, we all know it, is the meek shall inherit the earth.
Yeah.
But your humility, your humbleness, man, is why I believe, you know, all these great things have happened, man, because you're such a humble vessel with such a beautiful heart, man. And I felt that like immediately, man, like when I first met you. You know, I just, you know, it's been time, you know, relationships, they take time to work up and grow and stuff. But I always had that feeling about you, man. And that's what I've been I told Monica is like something that's hit me recently is I'm starting to realize a lot of the people that I was connected to have huge hearts. You know, even down to like my tattoo guy. You know, I'm like, man, he has a huge heart. He doesn't hit people over the head. He just, you know, he does great work for a good price and an honest price. You know, his name's Muka over at Ink Fink Tattoos. You know, he's just an incredible guy. He's been tattooing for years. And I think that's how you know when somebody has a good heart and they're doing it for the right reasons, is they go the distance. They last a long time, you know? And it's like, you know, when you're doing what you love, it's not work.
Right, that's true.
Yeah,
Your passion, it
Absolutely.
drives you and keeps you.
You know, there's another guest that we're going to be having on, which you're probably familiar with. He's the editor-in-chief of Creative Loafing.
Oh, Ray?
Ray.
Yeah, that's
Yo, I grew up with Ray.
really.
That was one of my best friends. Like when we were like knee high to a duck, and one of our buddies that does the show with us named John Snyder, all three of us grew up. There was a little group of us. Another guy named Ryan Jones. He's in the Air Force, but man, we would be outside every day, you know, playing games, making things up. But Ray was always that creative one. You know, that and he always had that connection with music. You know, and he taught us, you know, he taught us things, you know. He's like, music is like interpretation. You know, and I'm like, and that's always stuck with me. I'm like, that's true. You know.
And,
yeah, he's great.
And
Ray.
what about like when you write? Do you write the lyrics first? Because you said that you were processing, you know, all this life stuff when you're writing. So do you write the lyrics first and then the music comes to you afterwards? Like, how's that process?
It depends. I would say, because the thing is, I don't write like everything I do, I try to make collaborative. So when I did the musical Hair, one of the coolest things about the director Andy was he would, you know, he wouldn't really direct. I mean, he did, but he didn't. He'd be like, you know, there's a line you're supposed to do, and he's like, how would your character do that? And I just got to like express my part. Like, I had a part I was supposed to play, but I got to play it the way I felt comfortable doing it. And so that's why my character portrayal was so natural, because I was allowed the freedom to portray it the way I like felt I would, you know. And I learned that that's the best way to collaborate with other musicians, is to sort of like, even if I quote unquote write a song, like let's say I write like the lyrics and the vocal melody, I'm like, here's the chords, and they're like, well, how does it go? I'm like, I don't know, like, just figure it out, like, just jam it, and, you know. So I don't, especially when it comes to the musical arrangement, it's very much a collaborative process. I'm like, here's a suggestion, but do what you think fits. And then, you know, my drummer Evan will start putting some rhythms in it, and then, you know, Daryl will kind of add, like, he'll sync up with his, you know, foot, because they're just such a tight section. So once the foundation's established, you know, then it's up to me and the keyboardist to sort of like figure out how we're going to exist on top of that. And so it is very much a collaborative thing. But to answer the question, I guess it depends on the song. Sometimes I hear a melody in my head and I'm kind of like either in the shower, I'm driving, I'm going for a walk, and I'm just start singing something. Or sometimes like the lyrics come when I'm feeling a certain way. And so I think a lot of the second album stuff, Undertow, was melody first. So a lot of times the other guys would come, like, they'd be like, hey, here's a hook, you know, like they'd write like maybe a chorus or something, and I would have to come up with like the melody and lyrics to the verse or however it was. Again, very collaborative. And that sort of evolved, I guess, more melodically. And then I attached the lyrics afterwards, based on like the story that, like, I guess the second part of it kind of goes in. So yeah, I guess it depends. But then this third album here was a lot more lyrically driven, you know. And so it's a lot more poetry and kind of like slapping that onto the sound. So, but yeah, the second album actually is after having that kind of like light bulb moment. And I guess the reason it was so easy to write the lyrics to the melody was because I had a lot to like get out. So you have this light bulb moment, and if you imagine this, oh, by the way, the art for Eureka is done by this incredible artist named Carlos Pons. He's actually in Tampa. He does very like surrealist sort of like Dali-esque stuff, and he's been our artist for like since 2014. He's like, I don't want anyone else to touch anything visually. Like, he's our dude. He's incredible.
Yes.
So
P-A-W-N-S, Pons?
P-O-N-S.
Oh, P-O-N-S.
Pons Paz art. But yeah, he's very good. And so he has this like psychedelic Archimedes in the tub just screaming and the water's overflowing, and it's really cool. And if you imagine this sort of like almost like celestial being of this like Archimedes with this like giant cosmic wave of inspiration that's sort of like flowing out, and the second album is sort of riding the high of that, and like you either again, not like a single event, but it's either like you get like the dream job, like, yes, this is what I want, or like the dream relationship, and you're like, this is the one, or whatever that means, like, this is the one, or you like, this is the band, this is the sound, this is the whatever the thing is, like you've gotten it, and you're riding this like great tide to all these really cool places, and so like there's a song that's Float, and so you start to notice like maybe, I don't want to say like cracks in the facade, maybe you're like, oh, that's interesting. And the lyrics to Float in the chorus, it says, overanalyze things you think you know, but you'll decide that holding on is worse than letting go. So you're like, okay, maybe I'm supposed to just like let go of that stuff, but it's not a big deal, like whatever, there's friction here, like whatever, which is another song on the record, but whatever, it's fine, like just have a good time, do the thing. And then you start to realize that there's these like two worlds that are kind of happening, where you're like, this is awesome, this is everything, and you've built it up in your mind to be this big thing, but also like, I don't know, like this is just some like dark stuff that's happening that I'm like, what's going on here? And so it ends up getting to a song called Mantis. That's is sort of a praying mantis. I think we're aware of what happens when the male mantis mates with the female. She rips his head off. And so it's like, saw her teeth, but I'm gonna do it anyway. It's like, you start to realize like maybe this isn't actually like the dream job, the dream relationship. Like things are definitely not going that well, but you're gonna do it anyway. Like whatever, fine. And ultimately, grappling with this sort of like friction is sort of creates this like heat that just kind of fires you up and starts to drive you crazy, because you're like, all right, maybe things aren't like what I thought they were, And so the last song on Undertow ends with the Flight of Admiral Archibald, which is like a descent into madness, and it just kind of like drives you crazy. Wow. And that's actually where the third album picks up, where I got really into the lyrics. And at the time, a lot of it was centered around like my friend Josh had died, my band lineup split up. I was in a really rough spot trying to find a place to not only live but to teach, and I didn't know what I was gonna do. I was like, I'm teaching out of my house, but I had to move, but I couldn't move very far because I got kids coming from like literally every direction, so I can't. There's very specific parameters. Like it's got to be like a safe place that Anyway, I was going through a whole bunch of stuff like all at once. My whole world just sort of imploded, and that's actually the third album's called Accidental, and so it's actually part of a double concept EP called Accidental Necessity. But the third part is very dark, if you think of it as like 2020. And so the first song, Redefine, it's like standing at the precipice of like a life-changing decision, like an abortion, that if you don't have it, it's gonna kill you, or something like that, or like an abusive relationship where if you keep staying in it, you might not make it, but you also don't know how you're gonna make it without it. It's like you know that there's this band-aid that you need to rip off, but it's the only thing holding you together, kind of thing, And so that's what Redefine is. And then Caverns is inspired by actually underwater cave diving. It's sort of a metaphor for wandering through the recesses of your subconscious. And I'm not a scuba diver, but I have friends that do it, and I think they're insane. But they go down into these caves, and if you're scuba diving, if things go south, you can just sort of like float back to the surface, and it's fine. But if you've wandered through a network of underwater cavern systems, you have to like work your way back, and you have to be very calm, because if you panic, it's pitch black. You only have your light. If it goes out, you're screwed. If you panic, then you're going to run out of oxygen. And if you start kicking too furiously, you're going to kick up sediment and blind yourself even with your light. So you have to be literally like on the verge of death, but like, you know, your heart's racing, your mind's racing, but you have to be moving very slowly, drifting through. And it's sort of imagine like drifting through your mind, wandering for, you know, the answer to this question that you're trying to work through. And then the third song is Crippling Self-Doubt, which is pretty self-explanatory. It's sort of like, oh, maybe I should do this, and then having doubt, no, maybe I shouldn't, and like being just very unsure. And then it's actually the only instrumental song on the record. It's like a violin feature. And then the fourth song,
who's the violin feature?
Chris Barbosa.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, he's awesome, man. It's an intense song too. It gets dark. And then the fourth song is called Last of Their Kind, and it's basically the hook is the end is nearing as our two worlds unwind, the fog is clearing though we tried to redefine futile feelings and talks of tired tries, but those thoughts of healing are the last of their kind. And so it's just you rip off the band-aid and you end the relationship, you quit the job, you whatever the event is, or maybe it's not an event that you did, maybe it's an event that happened to you, like someone dies or like whatever it is, like something huge happens. And it's a cool song, actually. It's my girlfriend Emily described it as Tool meets Fish. It's like definitely the heaviest song we have, like awesome. Distorted, heavy, just angry, brooding, dark stuff. And then it gets into the song Scarecrow, which was inspired by a lyric that my friend Nathan Moore wrote, and it basically describes a scarecrow in love with a crow, which I thought was like the most tragically, hauntingly beautiful thing I've ever heard.
Wow.
And just being alone in a field, looking up, like hopelessly in love with the one thing that you're designed to repel, you know.
Yeah.
And so sort of almost maybe looking back on like a memory, and they say that time heals all wounds, but time just brings you further and further from this thing that you want to get to. Maybe you're longing for the relationship or the job or whatever it is that you've become separated from and detached from and feeling isolated. And then that's actually the single we just dropped on Tuesday. So that's out on all streaming platforms.
Scarecrow.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was listening to that. That is really good.
Thank you.
But now it's even better now that I know the story behind
yeah.
it. Like, this is just incredible.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yo, and I really like, you know, with all this being said, like, you know, man, when people hear this before the release, they can understand.
Yeah, for sure.
The album.
Yeah.
Would we be able? Would you want that?
Yeah, sure. That'd be great.
Want that out before?
Yeah.
We can push it up, you know, and get this before the release.
Yeah. When is that? When is that?
So we dropped the album release shows Saturday, December 10th, and I think we'll drop it on like the 6th on that Tuesday.
Yeah, we can push this episode up. Sure, absolutely.
So we can, people can hear it.
Yeah,
you know, everything. This is going to be incredible.
Yeah, because there's a whole, you know, and I don't have enough time to explain all that on the record, but.
Hey guys, thanks for tuning in. You can catch all of our episodes on YouTube and Spotify at Better Gents Podcast, and follow us on Instagram, TikTok, and Twitter at Better Gents Pod. Thank you and take care.